Schumer Shutdown panic. This is why you're never going to really notice that the government is shut down. You're going to hardly notice that the government is shut down, but the DC swamp creatures, they are going to notice. They will definitely notice. I'm going to be talking about that this morning because the government is officially shut down. So we'll talk about that, but we'll also talk about Joe Biden. This is hilarious, and this should be like the top story, and this is a huge scandal. I mean, you and I already know this, but mainstream media, like, if this was not a Democrat president, Joe Biden, if he was not a Democrat president, this would be the leading story today. Joe Biden, he had hidden note cards, like palm cards, on Chuck Schumer, Hillary Clinton, other top Democrats. And this is kind of confirming our suspicions, the Republican suspicions, that this guy was really not there while he was president. He was suffering from severe cognitive decline, and these note cards are proof. I also want to talk about Hakeem Jeffries throwing a hissy fit over the Donald Trump sombrero video that I shared yesterday. It was hilarious, funny. It was AI. It was generated with AI. Hakeem, he had a sombrero on, and he was standing right there next to Chuck Schumer. And he challenges Hakeem Jeffries, the knockoff Barack Obama. He challenges the president of the United States and says, "Say it to my face." He acts all tough for the cameras. I am also going to get to this bill. I love talking about Illinois bills, by the way. I don't know if you've caught on, but this show is all about finding bills that the Republicans and Democrats always vote on. And this was another one of those, bills that they all voted for, but this is just political theater. It's not actual transparency. It's this new crime data law. He's recently signed by Governor J.B. Pritzker, this bill. And, a lot of these bills that I talk about here on the show, Conservative Cat, you might just dismiss them and say, it's just a bill. No, it just shows that your leadership, your legislators are completely incompetent. And I say that not to be mean, but to be factual. They are incompetent, and they pass bills like this that mean nothing, absolutely nothing. It's just political theater. So we're going to talk about it, but let me tell you a story, friends. I woke up this morning, got up, made myself a strong cup of coffee. I like to thumb through my Bible app a little bit, do a daily reading, and then I flip through the headlines, prep the show. That's kind of how I wake up. And this morning, big bold letters came across the desk. The federal government is shut down. Panic, crisis. It's the end of the world. What is going to happen to us? That's what they want you to believe. They want you to be thrown into a panic here. And you know what? I sat there sipping my coffee this morning, and the world outside my window looked the same as it did yesterday. The birds are kind of chirping. It's a little early for the birds to be chirping, but they're I heard a couple. And, the neighbor, he's getting up this morning and he's going to work, and your neighbor's going to get up, start walking the dog. The sun is going to start rising. The bills on my countertop, they still need paying. I mean, and I thought to myself, well, isn't this interesting? The government shuts down, yet life continues on. It all goes on like normal. So the political class doesn't want you to think like that. No. You got up this morning and everything was still the same. They want you to freak out and just be in fear. Okay, they want you just, I don't know what's going to happen. They want you freaking out, thinking that you can't function without them, thinking that we can't function without them, and that we can't breathe or survive without them. Chuck Schumer, Hakeem Jeffries, they race to the cameras to tell us that it's Republicans and it's President Donald Trump who's shutting down the government because they don't want to protect healthcare. Okay, that's their script, and it's like this every freaking year. It's the same. Like, I feel like they're putting on clown noses and they take off their clown noses. Like, it's just a clown nose on, clown nose off. Same script, same tired script. Republicans want to hurt you. Republicans want grandma to die and to not get her Social Security or her welfare. Republicans want kids to go hungry. But let's take a step back and what actually shuts down? Are you going to stop getting your Social Security check? Probably not. At most, it might be a little delayed, if that. So far, I mean, I know the 2018 one, Social Security checks still went out on time. So the planes, they're still flying this morning. The men and women in uniform, military, they're not going to suddenly put their gear down and walk away. Of course not. Your police, your fire departments, your local schools, your hospitals, your grocery stores, none of them are shut down. Okay. What actually shuts down when there's a government shutdown is Washington's gravy train. Okay. And these are programs that nobody really knew existed and somehow eat up billions of your tax dollars every single flipping year. So that's exactly why they hate shutdowns and why they make Republicans and Democrats alike. They freak out because the shutdowns actually expose them. So back in 2018, Trump stared down the swamp for 35 days. So we were shut down for 35 days back in 2018. And the media went absolutely hysterical. You remember the crying talking heads. This is the end of America as we know it. But let me ask you, did America collapse in 2018? No, people went to work and then it got much better after that. Until 2020 when the government shut down because of COVID, which was an actual shutdown and actually the collapse of America. But people, during the 2018 government shutdown, people went to work, they went to church, families, gathered for Christmas and everything was fine. Okay. The only people who were suffering were the people in DC who weren't getting their cushy paychecks on time. And I mean, that's still not going to be the case here for a couple of weeks. Your government employees are still going to be getting paychecks for the next couple of weeks or so. It might start to get delayed after a few weeks. And, maybe a few bureaucrats are going to have to delay their winter vacations to Aspen, the Colorado skiing trip or whatever this Christmas. But, the humanity. Oh, no, the bureaucrats have to delay their winter vacations. I am just so broken up about that. Not. Okay. So I remember during that shutdown in 2018, they did a news feature actually on the national parks, which is so funny. That people couldn't visit national parks, which is not true most of the time. You can go visit the national parks. It's just that some amenities are not going to be there and some location or some trails might be closed off, trails that are maintained by the national parks crew. Okay. They had closed signs and locked gates, and you would have thought that the apocalypse had arrived. Okay. But I'm asking myself this. Do I really need Washington to tell me how to go walk in the woods? Do I really need, national parks are wonderful, yes. But you don't really need the government to go tell you to go walk in the woods, right? I mean, just to go do it. See if somebody stops you. Nobody will. Okay. Hop the fence. I mean, I don't know what to say. You don't really need the government to tell you to go walk in the woods. They could have easily just, kept the gates open and people would just be walking and it'd be fine. Okay, you don't really need a government employee to hand you a brochure about what tree you're looking at. Okay, you just don't. Actually, I have this really cool app on my phone. It's a Plant Snap, and any plant that I want, and it's a private company. Oh, who would have thought? And they do it better. So I can just take a picture of a plant, a tree, or whatever, and it'll tell me what kind of plant it is. So I don't really need the government to tell me what kind of tree this is on a brochure. Okay. So I don't really understand the point. One of I mean, why you freak out and your mainstream media is running national parks are closing. Oh my gosh. Shutdowns kind of remind us how unnecessary the machine really is. It reveals the truth. Government is not God. Government is not your provider. It is not your savior. It is not supposed to be any of those things. It is supposed to be a servant. And when the servant starts thinking that it's your master, sometimes the best medicine is to send him home without a paycheck for a little while. So let's talk about this particular shutdown and why it matters. Democrats lost big, okay, with the American people this last election in 2024 when they reelected President Donald Trump. They lost both chambers, the Democrats in Congress, and they have insisted to not humble themselves. That's the Democrats' problem here. Instead of humbling themselves, they are instead saying, all right, well, we aren't getting what we wanted, so we're going to hold a gun to the American voters' heads, and we're going to say, okay, well, give us what we want for our pet projects and our pet programs. Otherwise, we're going to shut down the government. And really what they should be saying is, all right, maybe we should have listened to our voters. They've dug in, and they've voted us out of both houses. They voted us out of the presidency. Maybe we ought to listen to these guys. Maybe we ought to listen to the American people here. But they are doubling down. That is not what the Democrats are doing. They are not listening to the American voters. We obviously want Donald Trump, and we want the Republicans' plan here, their spending plan. Otherwise, we wouldn't have voted them out so soundly and so astonishingly. We wouldn't have voted them out. And they just want to throw their tantrums. They want to block the funding unless they get every little insane policy demand that they want, including healthcare for illegal immigrants. They want open borders. They want green energy handouts, and they want endless money to go over to oversee wars. Okay, none of that has anything to do with you, the American worker, the parent trying to raise a family, the small business owner who's just trying to breathe under tax burden. So Donald Trump essentially called their bluff, just like he did in his first term. And he said, fine, if you don't want to fund the government responsibly, let's shut it down. And oh boy, are they terrified. They are scared because the Democrats know something. They know that the longer this goes on, this shutdown, the more obvious it's going to become to you and I that we don't need them as much as they say we need them. And as much as you might even think you need them. You don't need them. So when asked about the Schumer shutdown, Donald Trump warned Democrats, like, hey, you guys are taking a risk by having a shutdown. The shutdown is completely their fault. They'll blame Republicans just like they blamed Republicans for the shutdown last time, or the almost shutdown last time when they were in the minority party. And I talked about that yesterday. Like, how can it be the Republicans' fault when they're in the minority, and then it's also the Republicans' fault when they're in the majority when we're close to a government shutdown? Let's take a listen to the Don here.
We're not shutting it down. We don't want it to shut down because we have the greatest period of time ever. I told you, we have $17 trillion being invested. So the last person that wants it shut down is us. Now, with that being said, we can do things during the shutdown that are irreversible, that are bad for them and irreversible by them, like cutting vast numbers of people out, cutting things that they like, cutting programs that they like. And you all know Russell Vought. He's become very popular recently because he can trim the budget to a level that you couldn't do any other way. So they're taking a risk by having a shutdown because of the shutdown, we can do things medically and other ways, including benefits. We can cut large numbers of people out. We don't want to do that, but we don't want fraud, waste, and abuse. And, we're cutting that. But they want to have illegal aliens come into our country and get massive health care at the cost to everybody else. And we don't have it. And that's, I would say, the number one reason that they want to strike is to get illegal immigrants health care. And, Gavin Newsom wants that too in California, and it's destroying California. We can't have that. We're not going to let it happen.
Okay. So per the president, it all comes down to this. Democrats want to have illegal aliens come into our country and have this massive healthcare plan at the cost of everybody else. And that's what I would say is their number one reason. And that's per the president. And he says that's their number one reason they want a shutdown. It's to get the illegal immigrants health care. So Vice President J.D. Vance, he actually echoed the same sentiment. And he called out Schumer for his hypocrisy. So I'm going to share this tweet with you. JD Vance, he says, Chuck Schumer once recognized that it was disastrous to give illegal aliens rewards for breaking the law. Now he wants to shut down the government unless we reward illegal aliens for breaking the law. So let's take a listen to this. This is Chuck Schumer. All right, so JD Vance said that on his X account, had tweeted that out. And then he shared this video of Chuck Schumer back in 1996. Take a listen.
This is an anti-fraud amendment. Over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud. And here, the gentleman from Florida has put together the most effective anti-fraud measure we can find without it changing the actions of the government one bit. And we find all this opposition. Ladies and gentlemen of this chamber, what I worry about is that this bill, which started out with good intentions, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, is going to end up being the same kind of thing that the public gets angry with us on. We say we're doing something, and we do nothing. Because every time someone makes a rational and small proposal to get something done, people say, well, what about this hypothetical, that hypothetical, etc. I urge support of this amendment. If you believe you want to stop fraud in immigration, you have no choice but to support this amendment.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Okay, so there you have it. That is Chuck Schumer back in 1996 talking about how, we can't have illegal aliens with or benefiting via the taxpayer and being rewarded via the taxpayer. So the media, they are going to continue, expect this for the rest of the week, okay? They're going to continue parading sad stories about how the national parks are shutting down. Oh no. You'll see interviews with federal employees and they're going to say, oh, I'm going to miss my mortgage payment. And let me be clear. Nobody wants to see ordinary people struggle. I don't even really want to see the bureaucrats and the government employees struggle. But let's put this into perspective. Millions of private sector workers, the people who make a product or provide a service that people actually want, millions of private sector workers, they live paycheck to paycheck every single damn day, not because of a government shutdown, but because of taxes, regulation, and inflation caused by Washington. So where's the sympathy for them? You're going to see the mainstream media talk with the federal bureaucrats and the federal government employees. But where's the headline for the waitress, the small town waitress working a double shift to pay rent while Congress argues about gender studies and funding gender studies in Pakistan or whatever the hell? Okay. Where is her headline? And the truth is the shutdown does not hit you. If you are a ordinary American, it doesn't hit you. It hits them. And it shines a light on their waist and it stops their circus just long enough for the American people to notice what's really going on. So Russ Vought, who is Trump's budget director, he flat out said this. He says, quote, Democrats' policy demands are insane. He's right. And that's not just Republicans saying it. So actually 3 Democrats broke ranks and they voted with the GOP, voted to not shut down the government. And they voted with the GOP on the continuing resolution because they know it too. They know in the back of their minds that this is an outrageous policy demand, and you're not in a position to demand it because the American people very loudly said no to you. They voted you out of both chambers in the presidency. So that was Senator Catherine Cortez Masto from Nevada, and she said that she couldn't support a costly shutdown that would hurt Nevada families. Good for her. Even inside of the Democrat caucus, you've got cracks that are showing through. And here we are. The government is shut down. The media says it's going to be complete chaos, but let me ask you, did your alarm clock go off this morning? Yeah. Did you put gas in your car this morning? Yeah. Are the kids off to school? Yeah. Did you pray before dinner last night? Yeah, everything's the same. Life didn't collapse. And let me tell you something. Friends, the bigger picture here is that every family in America has had to make hard choices. We've had to cut spending. We've had to live within our means. And we've had to say no to things that we can't afford. It's time Washington has learned the same lesson. And it's time that they learn the same lesson. It's time that we stop treating our money like monopoly money, like it's fake. And a shutdown is not the end of the world. It's actually the beginning of something beautiful. And I love this word, accountability. Accountability. So I'll close with this as Christians. We know where our strength comes from. We know the source of our strength. It is not Washington. It is not a politician. It is not a government program. It is Christ. Our foundation is the family. Our strength comes from Christ, and our protection is God. And the shutdown is just a reminder that we don't need the government. We don't serve the government. They serve us. So don't fear the shutdown. Embrace it, actually. I woke up this morning and I was like, well, that's kind of good news. See it for what it is. A spotlight on corruption, a pause on madness, a chance to hold the elites accountable. And maybe, just maybe, this is the start of something that's long overdue. This is a long overdue lessons for those in Washington, those swamp creatures who have forgotten who really runs this country. All right, I want to get to former President Joe Biden. I don't even really like calling him former president because he wasn't elected. 81 million votes, my ass. Okay. He relied on palm cards, little cheat sheets, and this has been exposed. Fox News has done a complete investigative report on this, and this is fascinating. This is incredible. This should be the top story this morning, but it won't be. So I guess Joe, he had palm cards during press events. So throughout his entire presidency, essentially. And we kind of already knew this, and we cited this. We noticed it like in his hands, and, you know, the cameras would zoom in, and we noticed this as the GOP, as Republicans. Well, honestly, if you were a person with eyes, you noticed it, that this was evidence of cognitive decline. So yesterday, Fox News, they revealed this in a report that Joe Biden used these aids, these palm cards, for longtime allies, such as Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, the former Senate Majority Leader, now Minority Leader Chuck Schumer. And Joe has known these people for decades. I want to be very clear. Like, you need a palm card for Chuck Schumer. You need a palm card for Hillary Clinton to, like, recognize them. So, reporting from Fox News Digital on Tuesday revealed that the note cards from the Biden era show the former president's staffers compiled names and photos of several high-profile Democrats, including Clinton and then Majority Senate Leader Chuck Schumer, among others, for him to reference and look at during his remarks. At the time, Biden would have been working with Chuck Schumer on a regular basis. Like, this was the Senate Majority Leader. He should have been having like regular meetings. Like, you really need a palm card for like this guy, a cheat sheet to recognize his face and know who he is. So here are the palm cards. I hope you can see them. This is really fascinating. They got the Pritzker family lined up there. MK, they've got Teddy Pritzker, they've got Donnie Pritzker, and then JB. But right down here in the bottom left-hand corner, you can see the Senate Majority Leader, which is Chuck Schumer, and the Senate Majority Whip, which is Dick Durbin. You can like see these palm cards. So the outlet reported that 5 palm cards were found in this investigation of the National Archive documents, and they were also investigating Joe Biden's liberal use of the presidential auto pen to sign various executive orders. So 4 of these palm cards You can see it very faintly there. These are like legitimate documents. Okay. They were in the National Archives and they were stamped with this red lettering. You can sort of see it. It's very faint. It says, President has seen. So this is an official stamp. And then they would stamp it when the president had seen the palm cards, indicating that they were in fact used by Biden, that Biden was looking at these. And on the 5th card, you can see here, she's an ABC News reporter, and there's a question on there. Okay, so the reporter's questions for the president were clearly given to him in advance. And this demonstrates that the White House was collaborating with the establishment media, the mainstream media, during his time, and they were feeding him questions ahead of time and providing him answers to those questions. So Will Ricciardella, sorry if I'm butchering your name there, Will, he's the Fox News managing editor, and he noted on an X thread, so a Twitter thread, that these weren't casual notes. Okay. And that's what I really want to emphasize here. And this is what's so fascinating about this story. He says, quote, on X, these weren't casual notes. 4 were stamped with the red official stamp President has seen, indicating that these were formally vetted materials. These weren't just scribbles or little notes that were handed to Joe right before he got up on stage. These were vetted. These were very formal documents. And he added that some cards carried full bios and photos of lawmakers. Others flagged lesser known figures or anticipated media questions. They appear designed to cue recognition during public events. So what was going on here was Joe was so messed up, like his brain was just mashed potatoes at this point during the presidency. And he needed palm cards to recognize people that he's been working with for decades because he's forgotten their faces and he's forgotten who they are. He forgot who Chuck Schumer was, so he needed a palm card to trigger some sort of recognition. So according to independent journalist Stephen Miller, this is a tweet, and I'll get to this one. This national political correspondent, Alex Thompson, and Axios, like they've got some good stuff out there, but largely they're left-leaning. So this correspondent, Alex Thompson, referred to the ABC News card, or the note card, the palm card that I had just showed you. He referred to it as a, quote, one-time deal. Stephen Miller, this independent journalist, however, differed in an X post, and he said, well, it should be the biggest media scandal in a generation. The entire White House press was coordinating their questions with the Biden White House, not just one person. Okay, like, yeah, we've got one note card, but this is evidence that this is way more, like it goes deeper. Okay, why the hell would he have a note card like this? Okay, why the hell would he have it? This raises a bigger question. Hey, the entire White House press, were they coordinating with the Biden White House? And was he getting all of the questions in advance? And were they prepping his answers? Did he answer anything organically? So in a July 2024 press release announcing subpoenas to Biden aides, the House Committee on Oversight and Accountability Chairman James Comer, he's a Republican. In a press release, he referenced the note cards and aides, such as the note cards, indirectly as part of efforts to manage Joe Biden's appearances, public appearances. Okay. So this is what I'm just going to recite what at the time the 2024 press release said. James Comer, this is the chairman. So this is while Joe, was still president. This press release that had come out. And this House Committee Oversight chairman had really wanted to get to the bottom of Joe Biden's cognitive decline because, hey, the American people deserve transparency. They need to know that their president doesn't have mashed potatoes for brains. Okay. So here's the quote from the press release. These aides were responsible for scripting and controlling the president's limited public interactions to conceal his cognitive decline. While not quoting the palm cards verbatim, the committee's accompanying report cited examples of Biden using detailed note cards with photos and bios of attendees for events such as meetings with Hillary Clinton, Senator Chuck Schumer in 2023. Fox News report would appear to prove this right, prove these findings right. So back in 2024, you had Republicans sounding the alarm about these note cards and about aids to help Joe Biden in his cognitive decline. Now, he wasn't citing these verbatim. He'd get the question from the ABC News reporter in advance, and then there'd be an answer to the question, and he wouldn't read it verbatim. But the fact that he needed people's faces, the bios, the names of the people on these palm cards, that raised all kinds of questions. Back all the way to 2023, Republicans were raising the question about these palm cards and if he needed them because his brains were like mashed potatoes. So finally, the Republicans were right. Remember, it was a conspiracy theory. Oh, Joe Biden just has a stutter. Okay, you stop being so mean to him, you dirty, nasty Republicans. How dare you? He's sharp as a tack, that one, Joe Biden. Remember when they said all of that? Well, guess what? This is proof, okay, that we were speculating that these palm cards were actually used to spark some sort of recognition, used because he was so cognitively challenged. That this proves it. This Fox News report proves what we found 2 years ago, or what James Comer found. In context, here's what Comer said back in 2024, quote, "The White House has shielded 3 key aides from testifying about Joe Biden's mishandling of classified documents, and now we've learned through reporting that these aides are also seeking cover up Joe Biden's declining cognitive state inside the White House. The president is clearly unfit for office, yet his staff is trying to hide the truth from the American people. Key White House staff must come before this committee so we can provide the transparency and accountability that the American people deserve." So these aides would not come before the committee to answer for the palm cards back in 2023, 2024, when he was president. Now, the White House spokesman, Trump's White House spokesman, Taylor Rogers, had actually responded to this, Fox News Digital's investigative report on the palm cards. And they said, President Donald Trump gives unfettered access to media and answers every single question imaginable, okay, without pre-screening the press conferences or the press questions or collecting reporters' palm cards ahead of time, okay? Who's going to ask the question when he is actually competent? So he says, the White House spokesman says, he takes all the questions without pre-screening or collecting reporters' palm cards ahead of time, like his incompetent predecessor. So Donald Trump does not do that. Unlike Joe Biden, President Donald Trump is actually running the country, and he doesn't shy away from taking on the fake news to deliver the truth. So a senior White House official, unnamed by Fox News, and I'm going through this investigation that Fox News had done, senior White House official, unnamed, reportedly told the outlet that White House press secretary or White House press office under Caroline Leavitt's leadership does not prepare any kind of reporter palm cards. Okay, so they went beyond. The reporters would prepare their own palm cards and their own questions and give it to Joe Biden in advance. And further, the White House press team doesn't ask for reporters to submit their questions to the president ahead of time. So the White House press team and the office there, they're not requiring reporters to submit their questions ahead of time. So I think that this is huge. Maybe you might not be all that fascinated by it, but it's one of those things like, yeah, the conspiracy theorists were right again. Biden was installed. Yes. His auto pen, the investigation also talks about the auto pen and his liberal use of the auto pen to sign executive orders. This was just a fascinating story. I want to shift gears here. Appreciate you listening. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this out with a friend. Tell them to subscribe to Conservative Cat. You can support the program always by sending a super chat, or you can go to patriotpumpenergy.com and buy your bottle of Patriot Pump. I appreciate you guys ordering. A lot of orders coming in. It's great. Fruit punch is the flavor. It is the flavor you got to get, and you got to use promo code Conservative Cat. This is an alternative to the energy drinks that are out there on the shelves. It's cheaper. If you are one of those guys, you go to the job site every day and you pick up an energy drink right before work. You're working residential construction, whatever it is. If you're one of those guys and you get one of those energy drinks from the gas station off the shelf, this is a great option for you. You can have clean, long-lasting energy. We pair it with the black pepper extract, the caffeine in the supplement, so that way you have focus as well. Okay, so just full-blown energy without focus, you're not going to get what you need to get done. Okay, so we've paired it with black pepper extract. There's some really good things in there, creatine, some other vitamins that you'd need. Use promo code Conservative Cat for $10 off. All right, let's get to Hakeem Jeffries. So Hakeem was big mad. He was pissed over the video that Donald Trump had posted. Okay, he expressed outrage after Donald Trump had shared a photo or a video. It was an AI generated video of Hakeem wearing a sombrero, sporting a very large mustache. And Hakeem has said that this clip is racist, and he challenged the president to say it to my face. Say it to my face. So he talked all big and tough for the cameras. So again, I'm going to play the clip so you guys can be the judges here. If this is an actual racist video that Donald Trump had posted, which I don't see how this qualifies as racist, given that nowhere in the video does he claim that there is a race superior to another, which is the literal definition of racism. I feel like we throw that word around and we don't really know what it means. Racism is suggesting or claiming that one race is more superior than another. He doesn't do that in this video. The Sombrero video is just more of an accurate reflection to me of what the interests of the Democrat party's what their interests are and what interests they're pursuing today. I don't think anything I don't know why they're making such a fuss about this video. It just seems accurate to me and factual that this is what the Democrat Party is pursuing. All right, without further ado, we're going to play this clip. First, I'm going to play the Hakeem Jeffries expressing outrage about President Donald Trump sharing the video of him in the sombrero. And then I'll play the actual video in question. So let's take a listen. Here we go.
And Mr. President, the next time you have something to say about me, don't cop out through a racist and fake AI video. When I'm back in the Oval Office, say it to my face. Say it to my face.
Look, guys, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Nobody likes Democrats anymore. We have no voters left because of all of our woke trans bullshit. Not even black people want to vote for us anymore. Even Latinos hate us. So we need new voters. And if we give all these illegal aliens free health care, we might be able to get them on our side so they can vote for us. They can't even speak English, so they won't realize we're just a bunch of woke pieces of shit, you know, at least for a while until they learn English and they realize they hate us too.
Exactly. He's just putting a comedic spin on what they're doing. He's just mocking them. It's not racist. Yeah. So let's actually break down what the AI Chuck Schumer Hakeem Jeffries video said. Firstly, AI Chuck said this. He says, nobody likes Democrats anymore. That's factually correct. Like, that's just a factually correct statement. They're polling very, very low. I think it was like a 19% like congressional approval rate. Like the question was, I forget what poll, and I should have pulled it. Sorry, guys, but there was a poll that asked people, what do you think about congressional Democrats? Are you favorable towards them or not? 19% said that they were favorable towards the the congressional Democrats, or that they viewed them favorably. Okay, so that is just straight up factually correct, that nobody likes Democrats anymore. And even if you don't want to look at the polls, you can just look at the 2024 election. Very loudly, the American people said, we don't want you in both chambers and we don't want you in the presidency. So nobody likes Democrats anymore. Factually true. Secondly, it's true that the left's woke trans BS cost them votes. Again, this is a factual observation. In fact, most Democrats have pointed this out. I think it was James Carville or whatever his name is. Hold on, let me double check that. Yeah, so James Carville, who is a Democrat consultant and extreme leftist, he actually came out and said that, we just shouldn't be, the Democrat Party shouldn't put such an emphasis on the trans BS anymore, on the woke stuff. And that costed them some votes in the last election. Like, there have been Democrat consultants who have come out and said that that is the reason why they lost partly the reason why they lost the election in 2024, lost both houses and the presidency. So again, this is just a factual observation that Democrats have made, okay, that the woke trans BS cost them the election. Thirdly, Democrats did lose. You can look up the numbers here. They lost huge amounts of support among the Black and Hispanic communities, okay, amongst Black and Hispanic voters. They went for Donald Trump this go around in 2024. GOP made gains in those communities, not just Donald Trump, but the Republican Party. Okay, you're talking your senators, your Republican senators and congressmen, they made gains in those communities this past election. So what's exactly the problem here with AI Chuck saying these? Like, I literally broke down everything he said, and these are not even like this wasn't lying, this wasn't exaggerated or hyperbole. Donald Trump is quite literally just saying what's factual, and he's kind of putting a comedic spin on it. Okay, so where's the problem? The only reasonable conclusion is that the left needs voters, which is what Donald Trump had suggested in this AI video that he had shared out, that the left needs voters and they want to remain politically relevant. And the only way they can remain politically relevant is by getting a new voter base, which would be the illegal immigrants. And it's also true that the left providing health care to illegal immigrants, like, they want to do that so that way they get this illegal immigrant voter base and secure that base, okay? They can provide healthcare, free healthcare for illegal aliens. Then people won't care that the left is nothing more than a bunch of woke pieces of crap, okay, as the video had said. So if they provide the illegal healthcare, then none of it's really going to matter. Like, none of it'll matter that the Democrat Party has lost support amongst the American people and Black and Hispanic voters. That won't matter. It won't matter that they're a bunch of woke trans pieces of shit. That won't matter anymore because they've secured the illegal alien base, the voter base, with the free healthcare. Okay, so I'm having a really hard time seeing anything from this. Like, this is just a straight up factual video, which was like sort of funny, sort of comedic. Like, so, but it's not that like the left lives in reality. I wish that they would just live in reality. I know that that's where the problem lies here. They don't actually live in reality. They don't recognize that they're politically irrelevant. They're not looking at the numbers that the Republican Party is very popular. I mean, just look at the Charlie Kirk assassination. We know how popular the Republican Party is. I mean, there have been vigils held we're going on 2.5 weeks now. Prayer vigils. There have been huge crowds who have come out and huge memorial services. And I mean, hundreds of thousands of people showed up to that Charlie Kirk memorial service. So it's not like these people live in reality, and the truth hurts. I get that. And Jeffries, Hakeem Jeffries, he's just trying to grapple with the truth. I do give him credit, though. He talked real big tough in front of the cameras, but I'm doubtful that he actually conveyed what he was wanting to the American people in that video. He just kind of expressed outrage, and said that, Donald Trump was racist. You're not convincing anybody that Donald Trump is racist with that video, okay? That video was racist in any way, okay? So the left is incredibly out of touch, which makes the AI video very close. Like, the AI video is so close to reality, and that's what makes it so funny, right? Because it's so close to reality. And I think that the left understands that. They understand, like, deep down, like, Hakeem would never admit this, but he understands that's exactly what the Democrat Party is doing, why they want the illegal healthcare so much. And like, to me, that's nothing more than a personal problem. Like, you guys have got to get your party together. You guys got to figure it out. We just played a clip of Chuck Schumer back in 1996 talking about how we can't reward people for breaking the law. We can't reward illegal immigrants for breaking the law. He said that in 1996. It's no wonder that people have switched sides to the Republican Party. And it's a personal problem. You guys have got to figure your stuff out and stop demanding free healthcare for illegal immigrants so you can secure that base, that new voter base. You got to figure it out, and you got to try to get back the American people. Bottom line. All right. Now, what I want to talk about next, and I'm going to take a quick break. But what I want to talk about next, you guys know me. I love talking about these bills that Republicans, Democrats, this was a unanimous bill, by the way. So stupid. There's so many things out there. Like, recently I talked about the libraries stocking naloxone, Narcan on their shelves, and being a place where, somebody who's overdosing can go seek help and go get Narcan, because libraries, also like the Democrat Party, are becoming largely irrelevant, and they've got to try to find a way to remain relevant. So now they want to be like overdose prevention sites or whatever. Or they want to be mental health centers. There's a bill out there that transforms public libraries into mental health centers. So they're trying to be relevant. But that was a bill that all the Republicans voted for. Not a single one voted against it in the state house. So shocking to me. How about, crazy idea, how about we let public libraries be public libraries? How about let's not stock the shelves with Narcan, because I'd hate to see somebody stumble on in high on dope, needing Narcan when I'm there to, check out children's book for my kid. And I'd hate to see the little old librarian who's 60 years old try to figure out how to administer this correctly, so that way this person, if you administer Narcan, too much Narcan, the person can wake up violently. So I'd hate to see, Betty at the library try to figure that out and navigate that. But, your Illinois politicians, they have a funny way of treating problems. When the ship is sinking, they, instead of fixing the holes that are causing the ship to sink, they just start painting the ship with a new paint job, okay? And then they invite the press, and they say, hey, come look at this. Let's celebrate the progress that we've made. Look at all this progress that we've made. Wait, there's still holes in the ship, JB. Like, are you going to address... okay, all right. So we're going to talk about this bill. It's a crime transparency law, crime data law, and it's House Bill 1710. Like the library Narcan, This was voted on by all the Republicans, all the Democrats, because your legislators are incompetent. And I mean that in the most serious sense of the word. So I'll be right back. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and enjoy this brief commercial.
Check your blind spots. Men love to call things out. Weakness, hypocrisy, failure. We're wired to spot threats and take action. But Jesus didn't say, never judge. He said, judge not, that you be not judged. Why? Because judgment without humility is a trap. It turns you into a sniper with a log jammed in your eye. Matthew 7 hits hard. Jesus calls out a man who sees a speck in his brother's eye, but ignores the plank in his own. He's not saying, don't correct. He's saying, clean your lens first. Self-examination before confrontation. It takes guts to get real with your own sin, to admit you've gone soft, to face your pride, lust, laziness, or bitterness head on. But that's what real men do. They sharpen themselves before they sharpen others. Jesus didn't just want behavior police. He wanted heart warriors. Men who get the plank out, then humbly help a brother see clearly. Men who don't just flex spiritual authority, but walk with spiritual maturity. In verse 6, it's about discernment. Don't toss holy things to pigs. Don't waste truth on ears that mock it. Know when to speak. Know when to walk away. Before you blast through your next workout, check your form. Same with life. Patriot Pump fuels clean, focused energy, but you've still got to show up. Power with purpose. Clarity with strength. That's how you train. That's how you lead.
Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I'm going to get to some of your chats here. David Yates. Good morning, David Yates. Love you so much. Kat, this shutdown is a blessing. One Trump can dismiss, fire, the corrupt deep state entrenched in 487 agencies. That is an amazing number. I'm so glad that you put that up there. Yeah, there's a lot of BS agencies out there, and what the shutdown is going to do is going to be like a light where we can kind of shine it on this corrupt deep state that's functioning. Like, we don't need all of these agencies. And, you know, your basic government, like your military, your Social Security checks, your Medicaid checks, those are going to still continue. They might be slightly delayed, if that. But I mean, the planes are still going to fly. Your life is not going to change at all. Who this will be bad for, the Schumer shutdown, what this is going to be, or who this is going to really affect, are the DC swamp creatures. We're going to show that with this shutdown, that we don't really need government, that you can do without these 487 agencies. Okay. David Yates continues, his appointments that have been stalled can be fast-tracked. Just for starters, it's going to be the best show in the world. Yeah, I can't wait to see what comes out of this. And, you know, the mainstream media is going to try to get you to panic. They're going to try to say, like, oh, the planes are going to shut down, the national parks are going to be closed up, and this is the worst thing to happen to anybody. The world is collapsing. The sky is falling. That's not true. This is probably the best thing to happen to the American people. This is going to be a blessing. There's a reason why Trump did this for 35 days, actually, in 2018. So we've gone through this before. There's a reason why he does it. It's to expose the swamp creatures and to expose that, hey, we don't really need government, and government is actually a servant, and our everyday lives aren't actually affected when these spending sprees dry up. Spending sprees for gender studies in Pakistan and programs that we've never heard of and nobody really ever benefits from. But yet it drains your taxpayer dollars, billions of taxpayer dollars, to have this agency function. But it's not really necessary. So I'm excited. David Yeats, thanks for being here. And I love this. Somebody referred to Hakeem Jeffries as the Dollar Tree Obama. Yeah, they look kind of alike if you put them side by side. But Hakeem just kind of looks like a knockoff brand of Obama. And he acts like him too, a knockoff brand of Barack Obama. Okay, here we go. House Bill 1710. Okay, I wanted to talk about this. And as I was saying, the Democrats have Illinois politicians, really. I don't want to say just Democrats because all the Republicans and all the Democrats voted for this bill that eventually has now become law, 1710. They have a funny way, the Illinois politicians, of treating problems. You've got a problem, say a ship has a bunch of holes in it and the ship is sinking. What the Illinois politicians will suggest is, hey, let's get a new can of paint and start painting the ship. Let's give it a new paint job, and then we're going to invite the press to come celebrate this new paint job and how pretty it looks. And then we, the Illinois residents, are just sitting here and taxpayers, we're just like, wait a second, are you going to fix the holes, the gaping holes? Are you going to fix what's actually the problem? No, they will never do that. So House Bill 1710 is one of those. Sounds very official. It rolls off the tongue. It's a crime transparency data law, and it's going to bring justice and order to our streets. Let me tell you the truth. Ding, ding. The truth is that this is not a crime fighting measure. The truth is that this is political theater, plain and simple. So the governor and his friends in Springfield, they all want you to believe that publishing quarterly data on homicides and shootings that we're seeing, specifically probably in Chicago, because let's be real, some of these smaller towns, they probably only see like 3 or 4 homicides every 10 years or something like that. So really this is built to track Chicago crime and to publish data surrounding Chicago homicides and shootings. And suddenly, if we publish the quarterly data on these homicides and shootings in the streets of Chicago, we're going to have peace. We're going to see peace because we're publishing the data. Okay. They talk about accountability and transparency, and the activists cheer, and they say things like, gun violence devastates families, and justice should never be reduced to manipulated statistics. We need quarterly data, and we need to publish data on our homicides and on shootings and gun violence. We need that. And it sounds noble, right? You're like, oh, well, what's wrong with data, Kat? Don't you like numbers? I do. And I'm not against justice. I'm not against families. But here's the problem. These people are such masters at word manipulation and word games. Okay, playing word games. Because while they're fiddling around with their freaking spreadsheets and their PowerPoints, out there in the real world, Chicago has turned into a giant crime experiment lab where experiments never end. These social justice experiments with the Peacekeepers Initiative and these, violence interrupter programs, where they send out guidance counselors or counselors to go talk down the violent gang members. Okay. Chicago has turned in the real world. Chicago has turned into a crime lab where experiments never end, social experiments never end, and the bodies just keep piling up. They just keep piling up. And do you know how many shootings actually result in arrest? 6%. So there's all these shootings in Chicago. Only about 6% of the shootings actually result in arrest. You have better odds at finding an honest politician in Springfield than a gang member facing real justice in Chicago. Okay. So John Bach from Gun Safe Life, he was actually quoted in the Center Square, and he pointed out that it's not that we don't have the data. We've had data. I mean, I don't think that we need more quarterly reports to know what's going on in Chicago. Okay, that has nothing to do with it. Chicago already has a mountain of crime stats. 13 years consecutively, we have been the number one. That city has been the number one place for murders. Okay, so Chicago already has a mountain of crime stats. We know there's a problem. Okay, what good are the numbers if in the end you don't have justice? Okay, so Bach said it beautifully. Here he is quoted in the Center Square, quote, Crime without consequences. That is the true plague in Illinois. Yeah. So he's right. Criminals know the game is rigged in their favor, and they're going to continue to commit crime. And in Ecclesiastes, and I want to put this into a biblical perspective, this was thousands of years ago. This was placed in the Bible, in Ecclesiastes, or that this was written in the Bible 1,000 years ago. Here we go. Because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed speedily, the heart of the children of man is fully set to do evil. Yeah, we've got to deal with these criminals quick, swiftly, and we've got to punish them. Okay? And you want to know why gangbangers keep pulling the trigger? Because they know the odds of them walking free tomorrow. They know that the odds are in their favor, and they'll be walking free, Safety Act. They know. So no swift punishment means no accountability, no fear of consequences, and the wicked thrive when justice completely disappears. So that's what Ecclesiastes talks about. So instead of facing the real issue, gangs, Illinois politicians do what they always do. They hide behind words like gun violence and 90% of Chicago's bloodshed comes from gangs. They won't call it gang violence. They hide behind these fluffy words like gun violence and slogans. Gangs can't be regulated with new legislation. That's why they don't talk about the gang violence and they talk about the gun violence. It's because they can regulate guns with new legislation. Guns can be regulated. And guns make a perfect scapegoat for politicians who would rather restrict your rights than admit their own policies have failed. They want to restrict your rights. And this is a perfect scapegoat to do that. And I'm sure what they're going to do with this bill, with this new law, they're going to weaponize it and they're going to create more gun legislation and more regulations, if that's even freaking possible in this state. So, see, when you blame guns, you get to push more gun control law. Okay. Another restriction on law-abiding citizens, another excuse to chip away at the Second Amendment. That's what you get. And they don't want to blame the gangs because blaming the gangs mean that they'd have to admit their policies have failed. They'd have to admit that families are broken and that fathers are absent and that communities have been left to rot under the weight of bad schools, welfare dependency, and corrupt city leaders. Okay, they'd have to admit all of that. They don't want to blame the gangs. They want to blame the guns. And the Democrats don't want to have that conversation about fathers being in the home, about communities rotting because of the bad schooling that they're receiving, the bad education that they're receiving. Democrats don't want to have that conversation because it leads them directly to a mirror. And they're forced to stare in the mirror and they're forced to admit that their policies have led to this carnage that's going on specifically in Chicago. So supporters of the law are going to say, well, you know, this data is just going to make it more useful to researchers. Researchers? The hell? No, nobody in Illinois is crying for research or data. Okay. They're saying, please, Governor, please help us. They're not saying, give us more charts, give us more graphs, give us more academic studies about the crime that's going on in Chicago. They're not saying that. They're crying for safe streets. They're crying out for protection. They're crying out for leaders who actually do something about the thugs who are terrorizing their neighborhoods and taking over these places. So, and like I already alluded to, this law, what I really think it's going to do, it's not a crime bill. It's not something that's going to help. Okay. This is just, they're publishing quarterly data. What it's actually is a narrative bill. It's not a crime bill. It's a narrative bill. So this is a way to gather numbers together and they're going to weaponize those numbers. The politicians are going to twist them to fit whatever story they want for the next election cycle. Okay. So say the shootings spike, they're going to say, well, see, we need stricter gun laws. Okay. That's what they're going to say once they get this data. And if the arrests are low, if the arrest rate is low, then they're going to say, well, the police are failing us, so we have to defund them further. That's what they're going to say. This isn't a crime bill. This isn't going to help anybody. Every outcome, is going to ultimately help the political class. And meanwhile, you've got these families in Englewood, Lawndale, Little Village, and these are the people who are paying the price in blood. So let's get to the heart of it. Laws like this one, House Bill 1710, it was recently signed, don't touch the root of the problem. You want to stop crime in Chicago? Here's a solution. Prosecute the damn criminals. Do what Ecclesiastes tells you to do. Okay? To deal with these people swiftly and speedily. Prosecute the criminals, crack down on the gangs, strengthen families, bring fathers back into the home, teach respect for life, respect for authority, and above all, fear God. Because the absence of God is the absence of God in this. And I mean, you go to Chicago, you can't feel him, right? You can't feel the Holy Spirit. There's some places, even crossing the border into Illinois, you feel like there is no true presence of God there. That is really the problem in Chicago. There is an absence, God's absence. And when you take him out of schools, when you take him out of families, when you take him out of communities, something else fills the void. What is that something in Chicago? That something is gangs. Okay, gang is just a counterfeit family. That's what a gang is. It's a twisted imitation of the real thing. And it's a place really for young, broken men, lost, angry. It's a place for them to find brotherhood in sin, because they've never really found their purpose in truth, and they've never really found God. So until Illinois admits that families are the root of this epidemic, no quarterly report is going to change a damn thing. We've already got stacks of data. Okay. And shame on the Republicans who voted for this. Like, you guys are just such losers. So, like, where are your cojones, man? Okay. Like, I would have voted no for this and I would have said, are you kidding me? We don't need more data or more quarterly reports. What we need is to get rid of the Safety Act and to prosecute these criminals very swiftly. And we need to put God back in schools. We need to make these schools not suck so bad so the kids can read and do math at grade level. So, sometimes I wonder if the politicians, are going to pass a law tomorrow requiring gangs to self-report. That's probably what's going to wind up next. Hey, please fill out your quarterly homicide worksheet and submit it to the governor's office by Friday. How many drive-bys did you commit? Can you imagine? Right? Well, we conducted 3 drive-bys today. Don't you worry, Governor. We promise to be more transparent next time. And we will, right down to every little detail, tell you about our dirty little crimes. And that's how ridiculous this whole thing is. Like, I mean, sometimes I wonder if they're going to come up with something so freaking stupid, like having the gang self-report on, the crime, the homicides that they're committing. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past him. Honestly, that might be coming out next legislative session. Hey, let's have the gangs report. This is just taking up a lot of our time. Let's just have the gangs do it and have them report how many homicides they do every month or every quarter. So I leave you with this. God didn't call his people to live by bureaucratic reports. Okay. He called us to live by truth. And the truth is that crime is not caused by guns. It's not caused really by poverty or a lack of data. None of that stuff. It really, what at the heart of the issue is sin and hatred and selfishness and rejecting God and his ways. That is really what is at the heart of the issue. So the only cure for sin is Christ. We need to put Christ back in schools. We need to put the fathers back in the home. That's the only thing that's going to change Chicago. There's nothing Springfield is going to be able to do now, requiring teachers to baptize their students. That might be, or having teachers be able to baptize their students, or posting the 10 commandments on the wall in public schools. That might actually help. But there's nothing really that they can do. It's really got to come from the pulpit. from the family dinner table, from fathers returning to their children, and from young men trading their gang life in for God's life. Until then, Illinois can pass all the freaking transparency data laws, crime data laws it wants. It's just lipstick on a pig. And we know who's feeding that pig. Governor J.B. Pritzker and his merry band of Springfield spin doctors. They spin things. They want you to think that they're bringing light to darkness, but really what they're doing is holding up another smoke screen. So here's the little tidbit of truth I want to share with you today. Illinois doesn't have a transparency problem in Chicago with the crime statistics. We know there's a problem. Just visit, okay? And you can't walk down the sidewalk at night. There's no amount of data that you can publish that is going to fix that, okay? They've got a justice problem. They've got a family problem. They've got a sin problem. And we have to stop pretending like quarterly reports are going to save lives. Chicago streets will remain stained with blood, and politicians are going to continue to clap and applaud themselves and pat themselves on the back while the city burns until we fix these root problems and the holes in the ship. Okay, we can't keep putting paint and giving the ship a new paint job when there's holes and the ship is sinking because of the holes. Okay, so I'm going to take a quick break, but we're going to come back and we're going to talk about President Donald Trump. He's not one to really mince words ever. He stepped up and he said, you know, what millions of Illinoisans already know in their hearts, that Chicago needs help. They need the federal government. This is like a small war zone. And he went as far to call Pritzker a loser. Now, some of you are going to say, well, that's very harsh of President Donald Trump. But I don't think so. This is a guy, Governor J.B. Pritzker, who literally was thrown out of his family business. And it wasn't because he was, you know, being a rebel or he wanted to do something or stand against corruption within his family business. It wasn't any of that. His own kin decided, hey, you're kind of a dead weight here. Okay, so if your own family can't trust you to keep the lights on for your family business, why should the people of Illinois trust Governor J.B. Pritzker to keep the streets safe? So Donald Trump just called him a loser in a press conference. Hilarious. We're going to be back with that. You might think it's harsh. I think it's funny. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. I'll be right back. Smash that like button. Be sure to subscribe to the channel and share this out with your friends. And be sure to support the program by visiting patriotpumpenergy.com, buying your bottle of premium pre-workout today with promo code ConservativeCat at checkout. Have you ever noticed, like, I was sipping on my coffee this morning and I was thinking to myself, man, these politicians just live in a different reality than the rest of us. Like, we're watching the city burn. We're watching the sirens screaming. I was actually in Chicago not that long ago, about a month ago. And the sirens, gosh, the sirens, they just keep screaming and screaming and screaming. And the gunshots, you know, they echo. And, you know, the politicians, you're hearing all of this, but they're leaning back and they're saying, man, what a wonderful experience this is. That's Governor J.B. Pritzker for you. He is somebody who calls chaos progress. He tells us that crime isn't really all that bad. And then you've got parents who are bearing their young teenagers who are in these counterfeit families, gangs. Week after week, they're having to bury their children. So President Donald Trump never wanted to mince words. He stepped up and said what millions of Illinoisans already know in their hearts, that Chicago doesn't just need help, but they need help desperately. They need the military. And this is a city with body counts that are similar to war zones. Okay. And something is terribly wrong in this city. So Trump didn't stop there in this press conference, and I'm going to play it for you. He talked about how Pritzker is a loser, and I already talked about how his family business, he was kicked out of it. And how can you trust a guy whose own kin, whose own family doesn't trust him? Why should the people of Illinois trust in Governor J.B. Pritzker to keep our streets safe if his own family doesn't trust him to stay in the family business? Okay. So that's who we've got, though, in Springfield. And we've got to make a change with Darren Bailey. Yes, I'm voting for Darren Bailey. A lot of people have, asked me, hey, what do you think about Darren Bailey as lieutenant governor? He worked on a Hillary Clinton campaign and has a picture. Look at this picture of Hillary Clinton, Aaron Del Mar. It's like a grainy 40-year-old photo, 20-year-old photo. And it's like, okay. The reason why I'm voting for Darren. Okay. And I'm just going to say this. I'll say it once. He goes when God calls him. Like, there's no reason for Darren to go and try to get the governorship. Like, he's got no reason to do it. He's got a comfy little family, comfy little farm. But he's doing it, and he's doing it without running a strategy session or polling to see if he's popular in Cook County or to see if his running mate is popular. He's just doing it, and he's doing it God's way. And that's admirable. And that's something that I strive to do in my own faith, where, God calls me to do something. I just say, yep, I'll do it. And I don't really question it. And I don't run a poll or strategy session and try to do anything but just listen and do what he calls me to do. So I'm voting for Darren because I simply just think he's a man of courage and faith. Anyway, Governor J.B. Pritzker, he looks at the murder toll in Chicago, and we've got 11 people dead in a week and a half, and then we've got 50 people shot. And this guy, Brandon Johnson, they're just shrugging it off. And when the president of the United States says, hey, let me help you, let me step in and restore law and order with the military, Pritzker threatens to run to court. Okay. Imagine that. A governor would much rather spend taxpayer dollars, money on lawsuits, than protecting his own citizens from gangs, bullets, and the terror that's going on. So I want to pause there and talk about something in Romans 13. The Bible teaches us in Romans 13 that rulers are supposed to be a terror, not to good conduct, but to bad conduct. And they're supposed to carry a sword against evildoers. But what happens when the rulers flip it all around and they're a terror to good conduct, not to bad conduct? That is when you start to see them fighting and spending all of their energy on lawsuits against law enforcement, against ICE agents, against ICE, against federal troops. And like, these aren't lawsuits against or legal activity against criminals. They're going up against the good guys. These are people of law and order. Okay, that's what we're seeing. This is a perversion of justice. It's a dereliction of duty. And we're leaving families in Chicago to fend for themselves. So let's talk about ICE for a moment. Federal immigration officers, these are men and women doing jobs. They are enforcing federal law. That's it. Okay, and Governor J.B. Pritzker doesn't like that. He tells Chicago residents to show up to ICE operations. He actually said this, to show up to the ICE operations, to these detention facilities, film them, these ICE agents, narrate what's going on, narrate the protests. In other words, what he's calling for people to do is to show up to these ICE detention facilities and interfere with what they're supposed to do, which is the job of enforcing federal law. He is asking Chicago residents to go put themselves in danger. He is throwing gasoline on a fire. House Republican leader Tony McComey asked the obvious question. If there is something going on with these ICE agents where you have to film them, and why he wants citizens to go to these ICE detention facilities and he's calling on them to go film them, why aren't you sending law enforcement, like local law enforcement, to go fight them, right? If this really is a fascist takeover, why don't you weaponize your own, National Guard or the state police, whatever? Why don't you actually go send them if they're actually doing something wrong, okay, and have them go fight the federal government? If you think it is like this fascist takeover, why is Pritzker calling on ordinary people to go into harm's way instead of doing his job? If he truly does believe that this is a fascist takeover, which he has said multiple times, this is fascism and that the federal government's coming in, and if you truly believe that, then do something about it, right? Send the law enforcement in, send your law enforcement in to go stop these ICE agents. Okay, if they're the Gestapo or if they're Nazis, okay, go send the law enforcement in after them. Why are you encouraging ordinary citizens to go into harm's way if these, citizens are actually in jeopardy or could possibly be hurt? Like you're saying, like, oh, you got to film them. You got to make sure you film your protest because these ICE agents are just god awful people. Make sure you film it. Okay, don't encourage them to go out and engage with the ICE agents if they're as terrible as you say they are, right? Because really what this is all about, it's not about safety, it's about ideology. Pritzker believes in open borders, he believes in sanctuary policies, and he wants to defend them, and he's willing to let Chicagoans bleed, and he wants the ordinary citizens to go out there and film these ICE agents and harass these ICE agents and interfere with their job of enforcing federal law, because it's all about ideology. His ideology has been threatened, okay? And the governor of Illinois, he's preparing to go to court, not against criminals, not against gangs, not against cartels, but against the U.S. military, against ICE, against law and order. So his fight isn't with the wicked, it's with those who protect us from the wicked. So that tells you everything you need to know about his priorities. And Trump said it plain and simple. He said Chicago needs the military desperately. And he's right, because local leadership has refused to act. They have tied the hands of police. They've demonized ICE agents. So someone has to step in here, and that someone is the commander-in-chief. Let's take a listen to this clip. Here we go.
Because we're going into Chicago very soon. That's a big city with an incompetent governor, stupid governor, stupid. Last week they had 11 people murdered, 44 people shot. The week before that they had 5 people murdered, 28 people shot. Every weekend they lose 5, 6. If they lose 5, they're considering it a great week. They shouldn't lose any. You shouldn't lose any. This is civilization. And he's always up there saying, we're in very good shape. We don't need the military. No, they need the military desperately. We're doing one at a time, and we'll be going to Chicago. I told you this, sir. Union Pacific, head of the railroad. He knows this country very well. Started off as a very low-rung employee of the Union Pacific. He's now chairman. He came to me and he said, sir, save Chicago. It's a great city. It's going down fast. They had 11 people killed over the last couple of weeks. 11 people killed, 48 shot. That's not a city. It's a war zone. There's no city in the world like that. And then we have to listen to this Pritzker get up. I know him well. They threw him out of his business, and the family threw him out of the business because he's a loser. But we have to listen to Pritzker get up. He should call me and say, get the troops in. You ever hear that? 11 people over a week and a half killed. And I think it's 48, when you add it up, 48 people shot. And then I have to listen to a governor say how nice it is. It's a wonderful experience.
Let me start by saying it appears that Donald Trump, not only has dementia set in, but he's copying tactics of Vladimir Putin, sending troops into cities, thinking that that's some sort of proving ground for war, or that indeed there's some sort of internal war going on in the United States, is just, frankly, inane. And I'm concerned for his health. Even people, not just protesters, we're talking about people who are just walking their kids to school, living their lives in Broadview. They deserve peace. That is why ICE needs to back off. And that is why the President of the United States should not send troops to the state of Illinois.
The governor should be telling people to cooperate, no different than when you get pulled over by a police officer for a traffic violation. Cooperate if you have nothing, if you're not a criminal, if you have nothing to hide, you're not at any issue. You're not going to have any issues. He certainly shouldn't be sending citizens into a problem area where they could be put at harm's risk. If there's something going on there, why is the governor sending citizens to this site? Why is he not sending law enforcement, his law enforcement under his jurisdiction?
To date, I haven't seen reporting of our governor saying what is occurring with ICE is illegal. He just feels it's wrong. And that's the premise of the issue. He should be addressing this through legal challenges. He's choosing not to because the actions of ICE are legal. They're within the bounds of the law.
We follow the law. There is nothing that we can do in terms of putting people, our law enforcement, in the way of federal law enforcement when they are carrying out wrong but accurate federal laws. We need comprehensive immigration reform. That is what will matter. And what we can do when it comes to troops being sent in to Chicago and to the state of Illinois is immediately go to court.
Okay. Wanted to play that clip for you. Now, let's not be naive. The media is going to jump all over Trump for saying, if they spit, we hit. Okay, remember when Trump said that? If they spit, we hit. And how dare he, use this strong language? The protesters are out there spitting on ICE agents. Meanwhile, you've got journalists looking the other way. When they spit on our ICE agents, when the rioters hurl bricks at these ICE agents and federal law enforcement, when innocent children are caught in the crossfire of gang shootings, they look the other way. And then they call Trump dangerous. Okay, but they won't call out the gangs that have turned Chicago into a straight up battlefield. And I don't understand Governor J.B. Pritzker saying like Trump is dementia riddled for calling Chicago a war zone. I think that's what he was trying to say. Like quite literally, it's a war zone. Okay, 11 people dead in a week, 48 people shot. That's insanity. So there's no other city in the world like that. I'm sure, or the nation for sure. No other city in the nation like that. And Trump, what was Jeff Kiker said in the video, the Center Square video, he's exactly right. There's nothing about what ICE is doing is illegal. If Pritzker actually believed that, he could use the law enforcement under his jurisdiction to get ICE out of there. If he truly believed that this was a fascist takeover, it's all ideological differences at this point. Okay, it's not that ICE is doing something illegal or that they shouldn't be doing this. It's just that Pritzker disagrees with it, and that's why he feels comfortable sending citizens into these protests to go film ICE agents and harass ICE agents. So let's take a step back here. Pritzker, he doesn't want federal help. He doesn't want federal eyes on Chicago's corruption. That's really what's going on here. And he doesn't want things to get better because that would show, hey, when you crack down on crime and when you actually prosecute people and when you actually punish evildoers, that works. He doesn't want that. Okay, he doesn't want the spotlight shining on a city where only 6% of shootings end in arrest. He doesn't want people asking why gangs run the street with immunity while politicians run to the microphones and they have these empty promises and these political theater type bills. Okay, he doesn't want people asking questions about their policies that have led up to this moment where 11 people have been shot and killed in a week. Transparency is the enemy of corrupt leaders, and federal intervention actually threatens to expose all of it. Okay, that's the truth. That's why Governor J.B. Pritzker doesn't want the federal government in there, because the federal government is going to expose the truth. And here is the truth. This isn't a battle over jurisdictions or whether ICE can deport illegal immigrants or not legally. This isn't a battle over that. It's a battle of who defines justice and what it is. And really, the Democrats are just anti-Christian. Okay, I've pointed out several times in Ecclesiastes, it talks about how you have to deal with criminals swiftly, speedily, otherwise they will run amok, right? That's what Ecclesiastes talks about, that they will do evil if you don't deal with them swiftly. So it's just anti-Christian, this belief of what Pritzker views as justice, and open borders are anti-Christian. So God believes in, sovereignty and law and order, or God likes all of that, and they don't like it. Why? Because it's just, they are the antithesis to Christianity. So that's what this is. It's just a battle over who gets to define what justice is. And God defines what justice is in the Bible. And they don't want that definition. They want their definition. Okay, Pritzker wants justice defined by activists, by sanctuary city leaders. He wants it defined by left-wing mobs who chant in the street. And Trump says justice is actually about protecting the innocent citizens, punishing evildoers, criminals, and restoring peace. And, one side coddles chaos. The other side confronts chaos and brings order to it. These are two opposing ideological views on justice. That's all this is. And really, the ideological view of Donald Trump and the federal government is the correct ideological view. Why? Because it's rooted in faith, or rooted in the Bible. It's derived from the Bible, their definition. That is the definition they're working with. It is actually straight from the Bible. And Pritzker's definition is the antithesis to that definition. Does that make sense? Now, if you live in Illinois, especially Chicago, you already know the cost of this fight. You know what it's like to hear gunfire outside of your window. You know what it's like to hear the sirens screaming, to avoid certain neighborhoods after dark, or even during the day. And you know what it's like to wonder if your kid is going to make it home from school. That is not a wonderful experience. Okay, Governor. He will say that Chicago is a wonderful experience. It's great here. That's called trauma. That's called fear. And that's called the collapse of civilization. And yeah, Governor J.B. Pritzker calls Trump demented, says that he has health issues or whatever. That's his response. No. Like, those are just insults. Those aren't facts. Those aren't solutions. Those are just plain insults and projection. Donald Trump actually used facts. Now, he did kind of stray off a little bit and call him a loser because he was kicked out of his family business. But that was more like context. When Donald Trump was talking about it, he goes, "Oh, I know Pritzker very well." But he provided the facts first. He talked about, the 11 people who died in a week, the 48 people shot. Those were all facts. And then he added a little bit of supplemented, his thoughts about Governor J.B. Pritzker personally. And then he kind of sandwiched that with more facts that Governor J.B. Pritzker was kicked out of his family business. So, folks, J.B. didn't use any facts. He said, well, while it's like technically legal, it's wrong what ICE agents are doing. And I don't like it. Like, it's all like feels and not reals, So, folks, Isaiah 5:10 or 20 says this: "Woe to those who call evil good and good evil." And I couldn't sum it up better than that. What should be happening instead? The governor should be standing shoulder to shoulder with law enforcement, federal law enforcement, with ICE, with federal officers. And he should be saying enough is enough. He should be, on his knees, not in court, asking God for mercy and asking Washington for help. Okay. But pride is blinding JB, in my opinion. Ideology is hardening him. He has is stuck on his definition of justice, which is just the antithesis to what the Bible defines justice as. And Illinois is suffering for it because he is blind with pride. He is letting his ideology and what he believes justice is to harden him. And Illinois is suffering for it. So let's call it straight. Trump is right. Pritzker is a loser. And it's not because Trump said it. His record proves it. Okay. There's facts to back that up. There is no factual. He didn't provide any factual tidbits there in the presser about why Trump is demented or why he has mental health problems or whatever. He didn't provide any facts. So the loser governor presiding over a losing city. Okay, that is what we've got here. And he's too proud to accept help. He's too stubborn to face reality. He's too committed to this ideology to care about innocent lives. And until Illinois wakes up, until we replace him or have him fired, Governor J.B. Pritzker, and replace him with leadership that values faith, family, over politics, over an ideology, the bloodshed is going to continue. So law and order isn't optional. It is the first duty of government. Some would argue even the only duty of government. When leaders refuse to keep their people safe, they have forfeited their legitimacy. And when the state abandons its responsibility, the national federal government is going to have to intervene because the people of Chicago, they deserve it. They deserve a government who upholds its first duty, which is law and order. They deserve peace, and peace comes when evil is restrained. Okay, bottom line. So we're going to talk about Ilhan Omar. Let's talk about her because she went after Charlie Kirk, and I can't decide if she is just completely dishonest or if she hasn't watched a single video or clip of Charlie Kirk. Okay. Now, both could be true. She could be just completely dishonest or not know a damn thing about Charlie Kirk at all. But she's gotten out there and she's saying that his legacy is, filled with bigotry, hatred, and white supremacy. That is what Ilhan Omar said. And I'm going to pull this clip up. So just give me a second. But the left, they can totally disagree with everything that the right says. Okay. You can disagree with Charlie Kirk politically, but it's just incorrect to claim that he was bigoted, that he was hateful, and that he was a proponent of white supremacy. That's just outright false. So she continues to smear Charlie Kirk after his assassination. Let's take a listen here to Ilhan.
But there is no legacy to honor. It was a legacy filled with bigotry, hatred, and white supremacy. Mm-hmm. And as a Black woman and as a Muslim in this country, I refuse to join the chorus that changes the history of what is on the record from this man. But there is no legacy to honor. It was a legacy filled.
What? Okay, first of all, I'm very confused. She said that she was Black. I don't think that she's Black. I think that, brown, but I don't understand these people. And she brings up her skin color as if, she's trying to emphasize her victimhood here. Okay. And she says that she refuses to rewrite history regarding Charlie Kirk. But I've reviewed a lot of clips of Charlie Kirk. I've watched a lot of hours. I listened to his show. I'd switch between like Jack Posobiec, Charlie Kirk. Listen to a little bit of Louder with Crowder. Louder with Crowder is actually, Steven Crowder is actually started these engagements on college campuses, which changed my mind. He's doing that again after the Charlie Kirk assassination, which is exciting, nerve-wracking, because we know how violent the left is. But I haven't found anything of Charlie Kirk remotely racist and bigoted. Okay. There are creators out there who say things that are borderline racist and bigoted. And Charlie Kirk was not one of those. I've even talked about how, I don't agree with TPUSA on every little thing. They had a, porn star Nala Ray, which I am so grateful that she has professed Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior and has turned from her OnlyFans pornography type ways and has come into the body of Christ. And I accept her as a sister. Okay. But you shouldn't be having them or having a very recently turned porn star into a TPUSA contributor or turning her into some sort of TPUSA icon. I disagreed with that because you don't know her true intentions. You know, was she just seeking clout, or, you know, was she looking for a platform, being that she just left OnlyFans? I don't know. But TPUSA, they've been very lukewarm on the whole gay marriage thing. They've actually, I remember in 2021, they were passing out like gay marriage is protected by your Second Amendment right stickers, right? You can protect your gay marriage with the Second Amendment. And that's why the Second Amendment is so important, because you can protect your gay marriage. That is something that I don't agree with, right? I'm a little bit further right than probably a Charlie Kirk. Now, I've looked at some pretty far right podcasts, okay? Charlie Kirk was not one of those. Okay. He never said anything remotely racist or bigoted. And her comments here, Ilhan's, are just false. Okay. And then she brought up her skin color and she said that she was black, which I'm disagreeing with her there. At best, she's tan. Okay. Like, I mean, I again, something just that she says that is disingenuously false. Like, she says she's a black Muslim. I don't see it. Maybe my eyes need to get checked. I don't know. I think that she's like tan, like, okay. But anyway, I mean, it really doesn't matter. But it matters to her. She brought it up, her skin color. And, you know, Charlie has some words for her. I actually want to play this clip of Charlie. Here we go. Let's take a listen.
Satan loves victims, loves it when you start feeling sorry for yourself. He is the author and the master of your pity party. The next time all of a sudden you're bitter, he's the one that designed that whole feeling in you. The next time you're like, I'm a victim. I deserve something for how awful of a life I've had. I deserve something because someone said something bad to me. Or I'm a certain skin color. I deserve something because of that. Satan is the designer behind all of that. Instead, you're born new in Jesus Christ and you're a victor over your sin, not a perpetual focusing on this victimhood mentality that tears people against each other. Satan.
Wow. So, you know, I want to play one more clip of Charlie Kirk, and she says that he's bigotry, hateful, white supremacy. This is another clip of Charlie Kirk, and like I said, by no means was this guy even considered, I would say, far right. I'd say he leaned right of center. Take a listen. Here we go.
School. This is a great school. I love this place. You don't have a lot of allies here.
It's going to be a tough crowd. Well, my name is Davin Damien. I am non-binary. I am here with the Alliance.
Hold on one second. Can I interrupt you?
Yeah.
Guys, hold on one second. So we outnumber, what's your name again? I'm sorry.
Davin.
We outnumber Davin. That's unusual on a college campus. However, let's do something that liberals never do to us. Let's give him, I think, courtesy. Courtesy that we don't give them. How about that? Okay. So is everyone cool with that? All right. So let's not heckle. Let's not interrupt. Let's be the ambassadors for freedom of speech. Cool. Okay. Please continue.
I must say thank you. Thank you for that, Charlie. So I'm here with the Alliance of Male Feminists defending women's bodies. My main question is, why are you so obsessed with legislating women's bodies?
Okay. So that's Charlie Kirk. So Ilhan Omar says that she knows Charlie Kirk, and she's not going to, be dishonest about the legacy of Charlie Kirk for what it was, that he was bigoted and that he was hateful and that he was a white supremacist. Yeah, sure, Ilhan. Most people listening to this morning for tuning into this show, you already know who the real racists and bigots are. And it was certainly not the guy who was engaged in civil debate on college campuses right up until the moment he died. Okay. And it's clear that Ilhan Omar is projecting her insecurities onto him. Okay. We know who the real racists are. It's the people who bring up skin color. It's the people who have been distorted by Satan to believe that they're victims and perpetual victims and they can never be saved. And I've talked about secular therapy, how it's damaging a lot of young people, specifically. Ilhan Omar, I don't know if she's got a therapist, but I would imagine her therapist gets paid pretty good money to tell her, oh no, you deserve everything because you are Black or because you are your ailment. And, the secular therapy is so antithetical to what Jesus says and what the Bible says, where you should go when you're feeling anxiety or depression. You should always go to the counselor, not a counselor. Okay. And secular therapy encourages people to live in their ailments as is in pride. Okay. So if you have bipolar, if you have, and I've seen even like with autism, which is like really strange. If we can fix autism, why would we not fix autism? This is an ailment. This is not something that not being able to talk, banging your head against the wall. This is not something we want for the nation's children. So why not fix autism, right? Why not fix your bipolar disorder? Why not fix your depression or your anxiety? But secular therapy tells you don't have to fix yourself. It doesn't preach humility and that, hey, you are a sinner saved by grace. So it's clear that Ilhan is projecting her insecurities onto Charlie Kirk. She desperately fails to have even a fraction of the legacy that Charlie Kirk has and has built. And she knows this. And that's precisely why she criticizes him. In her attempt to, rewrite history, she goes, I'm not going to rewrite history and pretend like Charlie Kirk had this great legacy. In her attempt to rewrite history, okay, which she is doing with her outright lies about Charlie Kirk, that he was bigoted and hateful, that is rewriting history. She actually revealed something about herself. She revealed how biased and how intolerant she truly is. And she's fooling no one. Everybody knew Charlie was a very right of center guy and was not at all hateful or bigoted. All right, smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channel. I think that's going to do it for us today. Actually, I think I'm going to wrap up the show. I don't want to get into much more. Don't be afraid of the government shutdown. Okay, the Schumer shutdown panic. Don't fall for it. Okay, this is actually a good thing. This means that the government is actually going to probably have to be accountable, and I realized sipping my coffee this morning, I was like, nothing has really changed. Everything is exactly the same. The birds are chirping. The sun's going to come up. The bills on the counter, they still need paying, right? And the government shut down. Nothing really happens. Life still goes on. Okay. And, they're going to use their script. The Democrats are going to say, Republicans want to hurt you. Republicans want grandma to die. Republicans want children to go hungry. It's the same tired script that they always use. Republicans are not the reason for the shutdown. It's actually the Democrats, because they want outrageous programs that nobody really knows exist. And yet these programs eat up billions of tax dollars every single year. And the shutdown is actually a great thing because it exposes them. Okay, so we know that government is not the provider. We know that government is not God. It is not a savior. And we know that it's supposed to be a servant. Okay, and when the servant starts thinking that it's the master over your life, sometimes the best medicine is to send him home without a paycheck. Okay, for a little while. So I'm not really all bent out of shape about the government shutdown. You shouldn't be either. You're going to see the media parading out these sad stories where they're interviewing federal government employees, and the government employees like, well, I'm going to have to postpone my winter vacation. I can't, pay my mortgage or whatever. And to be clear, I'm not heartless. I don't want to see ordinary people struggle. But let's put this into perspective. Private sector citizens have been living paycheck to paycheck, not just because of a government shutdown, but they've been living paycheck to paycheck because of the inflation, the regulations, and the taxation that is just overwhelming. Okay. And Washington has created for it. So where's the sympathy for the private sector, folks? Okay. So I'm not heartbroken about this. I think as Christians, we know where our strength comes from. It doesn't come from Washington or a politician or a government program. Our hope and strength is found in Christ, and our foundation is the family, and our protection is in God. And the shutdown is really just going to serve as a reminder, I think, to people who serve in government that, hey, you're supposed to be serving us. It's not supposed to be the other way around, where we're serving you for all of your pet projects and programs. So I'm excited. Stop treating my money like it's monopoly money. Subscribe to the channel. We'll be back again tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. It's a daily show. Bye-bye.